If I lost my entire bankroll, bonked my head, and lost all of my poker knowledge and had to start over from scratch today, I'd do a few things differently. And I'm going to walk you exactly how I do it to shortcut you through the many years it took me to get to where I am today. My name is Rob Gardner. I am a 20+ year poker professional, and I love talking poker with people who want to get more out of the game and grow in their poker abilities. And when people try to have a poker career, there's some common mistakes that I definitely made that you have probably been prone to as well. So among the mistakes I made was trying to move up in stakes too fast. This often happened out of some unhealthy desire to prove myself or getting overconfident after 1 or 2 wins and thinking I was ready for the big time. In fact, 20 years into my career, even though I can beat mid and high stakes, I prefer to play lower stakes tournaments just because they're low stress, low pressure, and very consistent results for me. But back then, I had a lot of ego and I wanted to prove myself, and that led to a lot of problems. Another mistake I made was constantly switching from game to game to game, trying to find that magic spot where I would take off. This can be a difficult game to learn, and we have to give ourselves time to get seasoned and get comfortable with the things we're learning. You can't do that if you're jumping from cash games to tournaments to sit and goes. We got to give ourselves some runway to improve. And then a third mistake I made way too early in my career was being way too obsessed with profit. You need to give yourself time to grow into your shoes and learn and evolve your style, and you can't constantly be pressuring yourself to obtain incredible results right out of the gate. I burned a lot of energy and emotion getting wrapped up in winning days and losing days and the P&L when I should have just been relaxing and focusing on the big picture. So if you've made any of those mistakes, let me tell you how to reset right now and get a fresh start on your poker career. The first thing I would want to do is pick one format that I'm going to stick to for the next year. I've already explained why this is important, but let me give you some factors in the decision for what format you should pick. First, you should pick a format that is going to be commensurate to your bankroll. So if you want to go play live cash and you want to play 1-3 where you're buying in for $300 every time, you can't really do that with a 1K bankroll. So in general, you're looking for a format where you have adequate bankroll, you have adequate time to learn the game, and there's some sort of scalability to it. Being able to beat hyper turbo heads up horse sit and goes is great, but if you can't find games over $1.10, you're not going to be able to go very far with it. It also has to be something that's not going to bore you after a couple weeks. Again, consistency is going to be key here. So being able to do this for the course of 12 months is going to be important. If you're just going to get 1 or 2 months in and get bored and switch formats, then you're probably not looking at the right format. Once you've figured out the format, step 2 is to set your bankroll up in a way that will not affect you emotionally. Now, this is where the discipline comes in, and it becomes really hard for some people because everybody wants to play for the biggest money, but they don't understand that playing for the biggest money puts them under the most pressure, and for the vast majority of people, that makes them play worse. If we really want to master a format, we might need to jump down in stakes to the point where the wins and losses do not have an emotional impact on us, and we can just focus on playing our best game. Then when we have a large enough sample size and we have a proven win rate, we can start to move up from there. For some people, this doesn't really feel like progress, but the thing you have to understand is once you've got a really strong foundation in place, moving up in stakes can happen very quickly and organically as your bankroll grows. The hard work is up front, and if you can eliminate the emotional factor from the game, it makes that upfront learning go much faster. Step 3 is probably counterintuitive, but you need to study poker less and more intentionally. Learning poker is not a brute force thing that you can do where you just take a week off and you binge watch a million training videos and just absorb it all by osmosis, and now you're a champion. Poker knowledge takes time. Let's say you learn a new concept. You still have to take that concept and internalize it and understand it and have it memorized and then implement it at the table and then practice it and learn the situations where it works and doesn't work. This is a process. We need to give ourselves time for that lesson to take full effect. And in my younger years, I tried to cram as much studying in as possible because I thought if I studied 10 hours a week, I was better than if I studied 5. But honestly, how much of that 10 hours was I actually retaining and implementing at the table? And the answer was very, very little. Reality is, if you could just take one aspect of your game and improve it each week, by the end of the year, you would be a completely different player. And that doesn't take 10 to 20 hours a week of studying. It doesn't take a fancy GTO solver. It just takes the discipline to pick a lesson and really dig out on it and grow. Step 4 would be to track my progress. Now, I said earlier in the video, I didn't want to get caught up in profit or be too obsessed with it, and that still holds true here. But like I mentioned in last week's video, progress is more than just profit and loss. Keeping a journal of the key things I learned each week not only helps me feel a sense of progression and growth in my poker career, but it also helps me to have a reminder that I can go back and get very valuable tips from. Because honestly, if we learned 3 tips every week for a year, we're not going to remember all those tips at the end of the year. But being able to go back and highlight a few of those and reread them very quickly can really help us reinforce the things we've learned along the way. I think journaling is one of the most underrated skills in poker, and very few poker players do it. Step 5 is I would have worked on my mental game. This would have been one of the top priorities early in my career. I waited until almost year 15 to start working on my mindset, and my God, was it a game changer for me. Downloading an app like Primed Mind and getting into meditation, or doing a masterclass like Elliot Rowe's Master Game are great ways to really get your head wrapped around variance and having peace for what this game really is and the ebbs and flows of it. Keeping your emotions in check is so critically important in this game, and it's one of those skills that people just don't want to work on, even though a lot of times it's one of the most important. And then lastly, step 6, I would have found my poker identity early. Again, I touched on this a little bit in the last video, but we need to find our own poker style, our own niche, our own way of playing the game. In my younger years, I was obsessed with my poker heroes. I wanted to dress like them, look like them, play like them, act like them. But the reality is, I wasn't them. And what I've learned over the last 20 years is there is things about me that those players don't have. And if I had never embraced who I was as a poker player, I never would have had some of the skills I bring to the table that those players will never have. So as you get better at this game, start to think about who you are in poker and what your specific style is. You can learn from other players, but in the end, your style should be a homage of all the different things you've learned. Trust me, nobody should be the next Phil Hellmuth. Listen, poker is one of the best games in the world, and it is a lot of fun. Don't forget that. While you're trying to start a career, think about the ways that you can get the most out of this game, but don't get so caught up in the destination that you lose sight of the journey. So, pick a format, set up a bankroll that is going to work with that format so you won't be emotionally invested. Be smart about how you study and give yourself time to grow. Track your progress so you can see how you're evolving. Work on your mindset because it's really important. And ultimately find out who you are in poker and embrace your poker identity. There have been numerous stories in poker where people have gone from 0 to hero in just a year. So if you put your mind to it and you approach this in the right way, anything is possible. If you got anything out of this video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button so you can get notifications when our weekly strategy videos come out. I also put out daily strategy videos and cover my poker journey on shorts on all of my social media platforms. And if you have any questions or comments, drop them below in the comment section. We'd love to hear from you, and I'd love to respond to any questions you may have.